Hello, my name is Brian. I'm a writer with over 25 books on Amazon. Welcome to the next video in this series. This is Chapter 12, The Demon. Father Jacob has sent Philip away from the chapel. He has thoughts about facing the demon again like he did 25 years ago, knowing that he is not up to the challenge. Things go horribly wrong for him. I hope you like this latest chapter. Please click subscribe and leave a like for the video. Every subscriber holds the demons at bay, and every like brings choirs of angels to fill the air with song. Chapter 12, The Demon. Father Jacob watched Philip drive off into the darkness. He stood at the door for a long time and stared at the highway that went past the chapel. He tried not to think about how worried the young man looked when he shooed him out the door. He went back into the foyer and scowled. "He's worried that you might try to cast out that demon on your own," he mumbled to himself. "That's what his problem is." He harumphed and tottered towards the kitchen. "He needn't be so concerned," he growled irritably. "I never said I'd do that. He's worried sick over nothing." Knowing full well that he was not being honest with himself, he stopped at the basement door and gritted his teeth. "I only told him to get away from the chapel for a day," he went on. He scowled and stared at the door as if he were looking through it. "I never said I was going to face you, did I?" He knew what was beyond that door. He was probably one of the last living people to have gone through that door. He chewed his lip and narrowed his eyes. "The boy is getting himself all worked up over nothing," he said with a shaky and unconvincing voice. A hollow voice. In his mind's eye, he saw the stone staircase just beyond the door. At the bottom of those stairs was a hard-packed dirt floor. When he thought about the priest's hole at the bottom of those stairs, his knees began to shake. It was in the priest's hole that the demon lived. This was the first time he admitted that, even to himself. He would never breathe a word of it to anyone else. The beast fed on the remnants of the souls it had taken, and it was always ready to take more. Jacob clenched his teeth and tried not to pay attention to his quickening breath. His chest began to heave and his heart beat rapidly in his chest. Then his lips dried out. He licked at them with a tongue that felt like it was 3 times its normal size. He tried to summon more spittle into his mouth, but it had gone completely dry. He was like a man lost in the desert. His mouth was parched, and his soul was lost. The thing that lived down there hungered. "I almost had you once, old man," it said into his head. "This time I will have you. You think you're strong enough to take me on?" He felt the thing laugh in a low voice. "Come on, priest. Come and show me how strong you are." Jacob gasped and gave a mighty heave. His mind was being sucked in. He caught himself just in time. It would have had him if he allowed that to go on much longer. He backed up against the wall opposite the door and took a long, deep breath. He continued to stare at it while he shut out the voice that came from beyond. He stepped away and walked briskly to the chapel. He fell to his knees at the altar and stared at the large gold cross. He clasped his hands together and closed his eyes. "The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He recited the whole of the prayer in a whisper. It gave him some inner strength, and he felt his heart swell as he spoke. By the time he finished it, he felt as if he held all the strength of the Lord in his hands. Father Jacob prayed all night in the chapel. This after wandering all over the church grounds and beyond the evening before. He was beyond tired and continued to mutter the prayer. His eyes were heavy and his face looked haggard. He stayed focused on the large cross by the altar. He felt like he was swimming against a heavy current, and the cross came in and out of focus. He could never remember praying to be so difficult. In fact, when he was young, he found prayer to be relaxing and rejuvenating. He started again. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He swallowed through a dry mouth and fought to focus on the prayer. He rose from his knees and walked towards the hallway leading to the kitchen. He began to recite the prayer from the beginning again. He came to the last lines when he was once again looking at the door to the priest's hole. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. He opened the door and stared beyond it for a full 5 seconds. That 5 seconds was all he was able to endure. After that, he was thrown heavily against the wall at his back. He was dazed when his head thudded against the wall. He crumpled to the floor slowly, with his back upright and his head staring straight ahead. The face beyond the door was familiar, yet different from what he remembered all those years ago. Its eyes were slitted like a serpent's, and its expression was triumphant. It knew that it had him. There was nowhere for him to retreat. He was laid out for the beast like a delicacy on a silver tray. The demon opened the priest's mouth and reached inside him. It grasped Jacob's soul and plucked it from his mortal body. It dangled from its dark and calloused hand like a glowing article of women's lingerie. It was fragile and quivering as it was dragged forth from him. Its eyes were wide and fearful, and it tried to hide from the creature. The thing grinned and gloated over its latest prize. Deep inside, the old man saw his immortality being taken from him. He screamed in agony and despair, but the demon only laughed. It tucked Jacob's essence inside its dark cape and glided back down to the priest's hole. There it could feast on the holy man's spirit in private. A servant of the Dark Prince it might have been, but it knew its place. The ground on the first floor of this church was still holy, and it did not dare try to feed on one of the Most High's minions in his presence. After Father Jacob's last cry for help, the silence in the church was like a living thing. Even the birds and insects close to the church held their tongues. Nothing dared to break the silence. Father Kyle grumbled to himself irritably as he strode quickly down the driveway to the chapel. The last time he had been here, Father Jacob had ordered him out. Kyle had no choice but to obey the crotchety old man. Now he returned because he was concerned for Brother Philip. He had to try to save the young priest from Jacob's stubbornness. The old man would never admit to wrongdoing, and he needed Jacob to acknowledge his part in the destruction of Brother Charles long ago. Even after almost 25 years, the old man would not admit that he had anything to do with it. Kyle strode to the front porch of the church and stopped dead. Something was wrong. He could feel it. He stared at the door and reached for the handle with unease. Kyle gritted his teeth and started to shake. He grabbed the doorknob finally and pulled the door open. Even as he stood there, he felt a fetid breeze blow past him. He was sure he heard an evil chuckle, and he took 2 steps backwards. Then he cautiously stepped into the front hallway. His senses were on fire. He could feel something in the air, something evil. He broke into a run and hurried into the chapel. He grabbed the large cross standing upright beside the altar. He held it in front of him like a shield and made his way to the hallway. He almost swallowed his tongue when he saw the basement door standing ajar. Someone had left it open. When he saw Father Jacob sitting on the floor and facing the open basement door, he faltered. He swallowed hard and forced himself to take a few more steps. Then he looked down at the feeble old man and shuddered. The look of terror on Jacob's face almost made him run back out to the front yard. He took a great breath and stifled the angry words he had for Jacob. He wanted to call him an old fool and a stubborn mule, but seeing his face wrenched bitter tears to his eyes. "You poor son of a bitch," he mumbled. "You poor deluded son of a bitch." He went to the rectory office and called for an ambulance, but he was not fooling anybody. He knew that Jacob was well and truly gone. He worried that Jacob was not just dead, but that he was dead and damned. He took a look up and down the hallway and shuddered. He realized he was alone in this place with the demon. What little courage he had remaining melted, and he almost wet his pants. Thanks for listening to the latest chapter. See you again soon.